if you think about all those different power tools are essentially what AI can help us using our brain instead of physical training. That's what there is. There's nothing to be fearful. It's just another tool to help us to get better at doing some certain specific task, not a job, a task. Maybe a second brain for you, maybe a researcher agent for you. You're still steering the car. You're still defining the direction, where to go, how fast. You should never use AI without human evaluation. Don't rely on 100% on the output. There's bound to be mistakes. As a business owner, it is your responsibility to make sure what you present information is accurate and it's aligned with what you believe is right thing. It's up to you. But when you're not leveraging AI tools, you're working on a slower pace than people who are using the AI tools. That's it.
Welcome to the Builder Straight Talk podcast with your host, Michael Crisa. Get the unfiltered truth from the trenches of construction, real estate, and funding. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.
I want you to imagine that you're standing in your shop and on one wall hangs a hammer, on the other, nail gun, laser level, all sorts of tools. But none of those tools made a great builder, but every one of them made a great builder even better. Today, there's a new tool hanging on the wall, and it's called artificial intelligence. And some builders see it as a threat, others dismiss it as hype. But the builders who learn how to use it may very well define the next decade of this industry. Hello, my friend. I'm Michael Crisa, and welcome to Builder Straight Talk. Today's guest is Grace Tsao Mase. She's an architect, a licensed builder, a technology executive, and one of the leading voices helping residential builders understand where AI actually fits real world. This isn't a conversation about replacing craftsmanship. It's about giving builders more time to practice it. So today we'll explore where AI genuinely saves builders time and where it doesn't, how technology can simplify estimating proposals, permitting, and operations, why human judgment, relationships, and experience become even more valuable in an AI world, and how builders can begin using these new tools without becoming technology experts. If you've ever wondered where AI belongs on your job site, or even if it does, this is the conversation you want to listen to. So before we get started, pretty please, with the click of your mouse, subscribe, like, and share to our podcast. By doing that, it gets this podcast into the algorithms so more builders can experience what we're doing here at Builder Straight Talk. So once again, with the simple click of a mouse, subscribe, like, and share. And without further ado, let's jump into this conversation with Grace. Hey, Grace, I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, and so many different reasons. And as I was just kind of, bantering with you before I hit the record button, I've got no agenda other than you've got this depth of knowledge in technology, AI, construction. You're literally a walking encyclopedia. So I'm hoping that we can tap into that. The overarching theme would be, what will builders glean from the conversation that you and I are having? And selfishly, I'm kind of looking for answers to some of my own questions when it comes to AI. But underlining all that, I think my goal is that we just have fun. And let's see if we can get through an hour together and enjoy each other's company. How's that for a challenge?
It's not much a challenge. This is actually what I love to do. So thank you so much for creating this opportunity.
Well, let's start with, before we unpack what you do, how about you give us the elevator pitch? You're on the 15th floor, you've hit ground, you're heading down to get your car. Give me the pitch. What is Grace all about in that 15 flights down?
So I'll trace back. I'm a daughter of electrician. Started going to job site when I started school. So it was kindergarten period. So my dad would take me to job sites and really fell in love with the whole concept of construction, residential construction, and particularly seeing my dad owning a house for the first time. And that really made a huge impact on what does it mean to be a building professional, what we get to deliver, and how we change people's lives and the communities. So that was my genesis of my early start and studied architecture and lived through the Oakland Hills fire back in 1991. Slept on the concrete floor in the studio while the fire's raging through the communities. And 34 years later, we had to evacuate from the Eden fire here in Los Angeles. And so that was the genesis of thinking through of how do we build better and who gets to have this information to make it better for our communities. And currently, the information is scattered everywhere. And so that's when I realized technology could help us to gather all the information, all the data, so help us to make better decisions. And so I wrote the book on AI in residential construction. And while the editors reviewing the book, the manuscript, I decided to build the software and just make it easy for everyone in our communities. It's not just me have all the information. Everyone should have that information because we are the one who's making the difference in our communities and the people's lives. So that was my motivation of writing the book and creating the app.
So, like, you just pulled off on a Friday afternoon. Hey, I'm going to write a book, and well, gee, I still have a couple hours left over. I think I'll come up with an AI thing.
Well, I know enough about technology. I've been coding,
Okay.
working on natural language processing, machine learning for the last decade. And so it just putting that information together, it seemed like that's the right thing to do. Not that I have to figure everything out. It's just like everything. Like us builder, we figure out tools, figure out how to build it. We figure out how to make it better. Every time we work on something, we get better and better. And that to me, that's what this is all about. If as a builder, I use technology as my tools, different technology systems as a tools to help me to build better systems. And as a builder, I learn how to get all the right information so I can build better homes from foundation all the way to the roof. That's what matters. And so I'm merely merging the two. I happen to sit on that intersection. To me, is really exciting at this time of how to help builders to weave through all these different tools, identify ways to reduce the busy work and focus on things that matters, such as working with your clients, working with your team, and getting the right information so they can reduce the cost. I mean, simple thing is non-structural walls instead of 2x4, 16 inches on center should be 2x4, 24 inches on center. That's easy reduction on your cost, labor and material. So that's how we can get smarter on using technology to do better jobs. And this information, that's what we've developed to feed into our community so they can have all that information in the palm of their hands.
Let's unpack the AI side a little bit here. You've worked with probably close to 5,000, or you've worked on 5,000 projects so far. What are you seeing? I don't want to call it a trend, but is there something that builders are getting fundamentally wrong when it comes to the technology side of things? Because I don't want to say they're stuck in a trap, but when you look at the way homes have been built for the past 200 years, some of the technology has changed. And I'm seeing more rapidly, let's say in this decade, things are changing. But overall, we're still doing the things that we've always done in terms of how the construction is done. Could you label something that you see that they're just fundamentally not getting?
There are a couple things. I'll start with the first one. I don't think it started with us, the builders. It started from the beginning, where the architects, engineers, they're not getting the latest code. And so all this code changes here in California, we do change about 18 months. And so keeping up all the latest and greatest, and also the gap between when they complete the drawings, when they submit their submittals to the time they actually picked up the set of construction documents to apply for the permit. There are gaps and there are co-improvements and building signs are continue to evolving. And for us, California, we really rely on knowing that fire and earthquake are two big events that happen in our natural disaster that impacting our communities. When you design building for fire and not consider for earthquake, that's a missed opportunity, vice versa. And so architects, engineers, they're just like us, especially in the residential sectors, so busy on doing every possible things that we need to get done. This is, these are massive amount of work that requires on both for all spectrums, architects, engineers, and contractors. And so they're not keeping up the latest, greatest. And so when they submit their submittals, sometimes they get pushback from the permit tech, mainly because they haven't kept up all the latest. So they do revisions. So that's a delay. Once they resubmit their revisions, gets back of the queue. And when you flip on the other side of the contractor, the permit tech, they spend half a day. Usually they are able to, meet with you over the counter or answer your questions in the morning of the same issue over and over again. Imagine this is just one architect, but that also impacts a lot of architects and engineers who may not have kept all the latest, greatest stuff. of code improvements. And so they're spending good portion of time weaving through all those questions. And as a result, that also limits their time to focus on reviewing the documents. So that's one. And second piece is about us contractor getting the latest information. You know, even what I described 2x4, 16 on center for non load bearing walls, I still see on the job site, that's being implemented. Knowing that structurally for non load bearing wall, they can actually do 2x4, 24 inches on center, better insulation. This is actually better for the comfort of the home, but that's also not be considered. And so we together collectively, we need to challenge how we build and how the information is flowing through the systems and to all the different constituents, from architects, engineers to builders. To me, that's a big piece. And then there's incentives. There are incentives from the state level, utility level, municipality level, manufacturer as well, from rebates to grants. A lot of people just don't know they exist. And reality is, many of these different agencies develop these incentives is really helping to compensate the cost of these upgrades. It shouldn't be buried just on the homeowners making those financial burdens. And so, if we can have a different conversation with our clients about, hey, I understand the cost is important. That's for every project. I've worked on a very high end project. Cost is also important for them too, although their selection is a lot different. And so that conversation helps to relieve the decision on upgrading to better home. I'll use some examples. Out here, we have this zone zero or safety zones, which is defined by IBHS, the Insurance Institute of Business and Home Safeties. And the goal is to create some barriers in case of wildfire. And Metropolitan Water District of Southern California offers $3 per square foot rebate. And to remove the shrubbage, water consumption, vegetation such as the lawn. So I took advantage of that years ago. And I think some cities actually get higher. For example, I think city of Los Angeles gets $5 per square foot, which is significant. So we're talking about a check for us. Our yard is not very big. We got a $7,000 check that paid for material and labor to create that barrier that makes our home safer in case of wildfire. And so these are the things that if we can have that knowledge, data, I would like to call it, in the palm of our hands and have that conversation with their clients of how we build the homes, how we renovate our homes, retrofit the homes, and be able to show the money to our clients. Imagine the conversation is no longer about the lowest bid, is what can I do to protect my home?
From the builders that I've spoken to in California, they say the biggest hurdle is dealing with all the red tape and regulations because they literally say it's a nightmare. And depending who you're speaking to at what municipal level. So I can't think of the gentleman's name. He's a comic. His house burnt down during the fires. Now he's trying to rebuild, but the new code says he has to put in the concrete sonnet tubes to support, and each tube is something like $250,000. So he's looking at $1 million to put tubes in the ground even before he starts building. And by an engineer's report, they're saying this is like completely over redundant, if you will. So
Okay.
it's almost like people that are in charge that are making policy don't really know what they're doing, or they're just making it so difficult. And
Well,
one of the things that really stands out is the interview I did with Scott Norman. He's the CEO of TAB, Texas Association of Builders. And this is burnt into the fleshy tablets of my heart. He said, Michael, for every $1,000 increase in pricing because of the red tape, we're putting 20,000 Texans out of the market only because of a $1,000 increase. And he
mhm,
says some of the regulations that are coming down are just so ridiculous. Now, from the builder's side, 25% on average of the cost of the home is tied up in red tape and bureaucracy. So it seems like the speediest way to getting more homes built and affordable homes or attainable homes is getting government out of the way.
There's that part of it. I agree. It sounds like the first example you mentioned, I suspect that this is a hillside property, case on foundation, footing. It could be due to erosion, right? The question comes back to, as a homeowner, what would you like to do? Where you're building your home on, and what is it that you can protect your investment and also your home, your family. And then maybe if the engineers declare over engineering, in fact, they should ask their engineer to work with the city to revise that request. And so there are ways to work through it. And more importantly, when there's things are just completely outrageous, speak to their city managers. And oftentimes I do escalate. This is not unusual, unfortunately, but they are reasonable. Once you speak with them, they understand the concerns. They tend to back into, all right, this is how we can find middle ground to make this work. So there are ways to work around. It's not just, the technician is one insists on doing things certain way, or the city engineers. You can actually speak to the city manager.
Have you ever been in a situation, and again, let's go back to the municipal level, red
Mhm.
tape, bureaucracy, that to you, the answer is just so blindingly simple, but the people are involved are just making it so complicated that you just kind of want to scream. Has there ever been a scenario like that that you can share with us?
I think most of the cases I've experienced all get resolved. And if you think about it, red tape, this is no it's not just a municipality, even for big corporations, right? There's bound to some level of complexity and so forth. Is what I do find what we're good at as a profession is sit down, find a middle ground. We're solution finders. We're problem solvers. And when we sit down with the right people, not just looking for frontier folks, but actually engage with people at the next level decision makers. Just like anything in life, when things don't work out, when you go to a retail store, things don't work out, you do talk to managers. And when you work with a municipality, it's the same practice. The folks that are dealing with filter through the first tier triage, they may not have the power, and that's not their fault. And how do we be creative looking for the decision maker at the next level, which all this information is public, and just pick up the phone and have a conversation? And in my experience, all these projects has merely just have a conversation, even stop by the counter and ask for the manager and go through the challenges and come with a proposal. How would we fix it to find the middle ground to make it work?
Do you think part of it is you mentioned you're going to the Rush concert tonight?
Yes.
And what has given that band longevity is that you've got disciplined artists
Yes.
that have their own unique skill set.
Hmm.
But before they get on stage, they practice, they know what they're going to do. And when they hit the stage, that energy washes over each one of them. Like they're perfectly in sync. They know what the mission is. As part of the construction process, then assembling, if you will, the band together and then sharing that vision so everyone knows here's what we're trying to achieve. And by setting the expectations at the beginning, hopefully it's going to be a good concert at the end.
Yes. And I think I love that analogy. Rush, what they're known for over 50 some years is that discipline. And they practice and they work hard at it. And even the critic may critique their work for being the longest song that's ever written, but they did it with their heart. And I think in the world of advanced technology, the heart actually stands out more. When you spend more time working through your craft and really focus on the purpose for Rush is about the joy that they share with the audience. And for us is delivering better home, building a home that people will enjoy. And every detail when they look at it is like, someone thought about this. And that's what the craft is all about. It makes it uniquely special. And knowing that someone thought of me living in the space and creating this level of detail that makes me feel joy. And that's this, when we talk about the spark of joy, that's what we deliver. And I love I love your description of us, getting the band together. Essentially, is we, as a general contractors, we get different trades working together, sequence everything, make sure everything's lined up perfectly. And at the end, we produce this beautiful home that people will live for generations.
I'm going to step on stage here unrehearsed, and since we've got this band metaphor going, let's see if we can
How long
stretch it
you
out a
hear
bit
this?
further. I'm thinking of the Eagles, and
Um,
California, that iconic band, one of my favorite. So the pedigree when they first started was very strong in country and bluegrass. And I can't remember the guitar player, but he played guitar, banjo. He wrote uh not wasn't Lion Eyes. Come on. I'm having an Alzheimer's moment. Anyway, the classics at the beginning, he had his fingers all over. But there became a point when Don Henley, who's the other guy? John Fry. They were basically the principals of the band, and they wanted to take it more into the gritty rock and roll realm because they knew if they stayed where they were in that lane, even though they were polished and their songs were perfect, that perfection was going to come back and bite them in the ass because now there was nothing spontaneous and they're going to be trapped within that machine. That's created the opening for Walsh to step in, who was a maniac guitar player. And when it came to polished discipline, that wasn't him. He was a spontaneous, he could hear where the notes were missing type guitar player. And plus, he had the pedigree that he could now take them onto the big, big stages of rock and roll. And
mhm.
now they'd be recognized as being a rock and roll band. So, where I'm going with this, are we at that point in the evolution of construction right now where something has to change? We can't be doing what we have been doing. And there's that opportunity now, like bringing Walsh into the group that we've got to do something dynamic, something different, or we're doomed.
Oh, I love this. I think AI is that. AI is the Walsh comparison.
Okay.
If you can bring that in, interject into your operation, improve every frictions along the way of your operation, that's where you take it to the next level. And earlier I mentioned bound incentive. That's just one piece of what AI can help you to do. And then there's also, I mean, there are a lot of great AI products out there from estimation to design to project management. There are tons of great products out there. It's all about helping us advance our ability to be more productive and focus on things that we may miss. For example, even just AI estimation. All right. There are tools that figures information of what's costs, the detail of the cost to the delta between some of the nuance that we may miss and be able to generate in a matter of minutes instead of days. And I think most of contractors, when I talk about estimate, everyone dread to put an estimate together. Part of it because it takes so long and the research you have to do to make sure that you have good confidence and also accuracy. Make sure that all the calculations done correctly. If you're working on the estimate, make sure when you insert a new row, the formula is actually counting for that particular cell. So this is no, the new row is being added to the new data is actually being added to the um, final total. I've
Okay, hold
seen.
on. Grace, I'm gonna do a timeout. You've done a lane change into technology speak,
Okay.
and I'm gonna represent the 6-year-olds in the room. This
Okay.
is me. So I'm
Okay.
officially wearing that 6-year-old hat. Let's rewind this right back to AI, okay? What the hell is it? And when I think of the
Oh.
average builder that's in his pickup truck right now and he's listening to us and hopefully engaged, he's going, I don't need me any of that AI stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I've heard that. I've heard that before
Yeah.
at high levels in committee. On the other side, we need to get us some of that AI. And I'm thinking, this isn't like you're going to the corner store and buying a banjo. Like when you
Mhm.
say we need to get us some of that AI, take us back to what is it and what's the relevancy in construction and where do you see it going?
Okay. Artificial intelligence, really simply put, is additional brain to help you process information. Is simple things as, I mean, think about, let me trace back to when the calculator first came out. How many of us as a builders, we end up switching over using calculator to do all the calculations? Good portion of population over a period of time. And then when the computer came in, then we started using computer to do calculation for us. And AI is just next evolution of using that to help us do calculation. It's brilliant on doing calculations. It's brilliant on understanding the request to do the research and come back with synthesized results. That's what AI is. And most of it are created this application. For example, you probably heard of ChatGPT or Claude, Gemini. And Perplexity app is aggregating all these together and help you to do research. So all these are just stepping stone of different evolution computing. And now the concept of, using to understand, doing calculation, generating information for you, that's generative AI. And you may be able to feed into something and ask to write some document for you in SOP and whatnot. Then there's the next level of Gentic AI, where it would do things for you, would do all the research and creating things and have it ready for you. So this is merely evolution of additional brain to help us do things. But even as today, we still need to put, as a human, we still need to put in what we want and provide directions. We still are in the driver's seat. We're just looking for additional passenger to help us do better, to look out for things that we need to figure things out ahead of time. So, does that help to frame what AI can do for us?
Yeah, I think so. The question I should have started off with right at the beginning is how do I know that I'm actually having a conversation with grace and
Ugh,
that you're not sitting on a beach somewhere with a cigar in one hand, martini in the other, and this is an AI generated bot that I'm having a conversation with?
good question. Well, one is I am real. I am pretty clear on things that I want AI to be engaged in my operation, my life. I do not want to have AI to do thinking for me, and my human interaction always has to be me. That's how I stay authentic to myself. And that's also helped me to continue to use my brain to think. I use AI to do counter second brain to bounce ideas with, to do things that are repetitive, that can be done easily by a machine to do the work for me. And oftentimes, AI is these kind of AI tools like HeyGen or others are getting better, where you can see the mouth movements about the same, the hand gestures fairly natural. But at some point, when you start comparing, there's still a little bit of glitch. It's not completely perfect, and they look perfectly beautiful. And this is not perfectly beautiful. I have my flaws. And so
Speak for yourself, sister. This is perfection on this side of the camera.
this is definitely not an AI. I recognize some company will be perfectly comfortable putting themselves or individuals using AI generated, but I do have to find that engaging with AI, you don't have that key connection. It's a human connection, the thinking, the emotion, the something that's lived experience. AI can't generate that for you. Maybe someday, but for time being, I think if we are intentional about how we leverage technology, then we have a fighting chance of making something truly valuable and truly unique, knowing that our industry is very much about high touch. We connect with our homeowners, we talk with our trades, we physically build the homes. So those are high touch. AI can never take those away.
I'm going to push back on that one because I would say the custom builder, spec builder, and let's set a cap, maybe up to 100 homes. But when
Right.
you look at the big monster builders, for them, it's not about the personal touch anymore. It's about expediency, building as many homes as quickly as we can. We have a board of directors that we have to be accountable for. So obviously, we're looking at bottom line. And when you talk about that human experience, hey, can we offset this somehow to a bot that's going to handle all our complaint calls, warranty calls? So they're looking for that solution to get rid of this. They don't want the human touch. They're looking for what's the word for speed? Well, just put it out there. They're looking for efficiency and they're looking for speed. On the other side, when we talk about the custom and the smaller spec builders, their survival, I think, will be predicated on the interactions that they have with real people in real time. Am I on
Right.
the right path there?
I think you're right, path. And I think there are some production companies I'm familiar with that they are leveraging AI to do land surveys and so forth. They may be dealing with having a bot to do the customer support piece. And I can understand why efficiency and so forth and accuracy sometimes maybe instead of human error being introduced during the interpretation, it would be best to actually have a system to extrapolate and parse information to figure out what the key issue or the root cause may be. That's ultimately a company's decision. But I do find that in the world of advanced technology, and the connection is even more important. That to me is the currency. And when you build that relationship, it's not just a production. You're not buying a packaged good. You're actually doing something that knowing that this is being delivered to you with someone's intention. With, if I were to offer this pencil to you and declare, this is what I worked on so hard and I shared this with you probably take it differently than versus me just handing over, hey, here's your pencil, right? The
Especially when you pulled it out of a box of pencils. Yeah,
Right. Go out the box here, so let me unwrap, here's your pencil.
yeah.
I think the feeling may be different, and as a human, we can detect the different experience, and the value you pay for, you'll probably for the same pen, I'll offer you in the way that I put this as a precious I worked on this. You probably treat it more, and you probably value more. When you value more, your wallet opens up bigger.
I gotta believe that we're at this crossroad right now when I look at this generation that is now coming into the market.
Mhm,
And I don't wanna say they've been sold a bill of goods, but in essence, they have been. They go to university, get a degree, but you have no clear path forward. It's like, okay, hop in the car, go on vacation, but you have no idea where you're going. So how are you ever gonna get there? So they've gone to university, they come out with some degree in, gender dance theory or whatever. They can't get employment. They're living in their parents' basement. They're disengaged from other people, and they're so reliant on this,
mhm,
that this is their life now, that they've lost the ability to interact with other people. And that AI that I see now, the artificial relationships, I think it has to come full circle. And let's go back to the band analogy one more time, and I promise not to bring it back again. But in hard times, what happens is people resort back to, let's call it creature comforts. When the economy is tough, people will get rid of all the distractions. So they'll, stop paying for takeout dinners. They're going to cook at home. The music seems to change the genre back to country, to roots type stuff.
mhm,
And I'm kind of seeing the same thing is happening now with the extreme of AI, with the bots that are taking over in terms of customer relations, that people are so desperate for the human touch
mhm.
that it is gonna come full circle back
Yes.
to the ones that will win are the ones that are actually getting up front of their customers and realizing it's heartbeat to heartbeat,
Mhm.
not heartbeat to keyboard.
You speak my words. I love that. That's exactly it. The analogy is spot on. That's a trend I'm seeing as well, is we are coming to a full circle. We now have better understanding the impact of how social media, the mobile devices is impacting our lives, our children's lives. And you know, their organization are now making more effort to bring awareness. The system from the schools and others, they're making more, intentional efforts to make sure separate those things out for kids to actually enjoy what's like to live a life. I mean, I still remember growing up, going to the countryside of my grandmother's house, playing the river. Those are things that we learn to feel, having our feet in the river rock and learn to walk cautiously using our core you know, to cross the river, make sure that we're stable. And those are things that are lived through experience. The device or social media would never provide that experience. And I think once we get to the level of bring that full circle back, once we start experiencing what it is like to be that connecting, live experience at that present moment, it's quite addicting because that becomes like something they haven't experienced and knowing that to feel like they belong and they're seen and they matter and the experience matters not just themselves to other people around them. And that's going to be special when we see that shift going forward. And I do hope that the schools are bringing back these courses like wood shops. I remember in my high school we had wood shops. And even in college, when I study architecture, it's inevitable we will always be in the workshop, going to the saw table, making models and so forth. And that experience has to happen. They can't not live without it. For us, those hands-on experience, you can't translate perfectly into the digital experience. Digital twins are important when architects design their space, but it's another when you build a model and actually see through and truly visually understand the space that you're creating and how that translates to build environment. It
Yeah,
matters.
I think it's a understanding it's one more tool for you to use. And when you said
Yes.
shop class, for whatever reason they took it out of the curriculum. I remember you would rate a shop teacher by how many fingers he still had,
Right.
how
Or
good
how
he
many
was, right?
I certainly have my, cuts around my finger, my index
Yeah.
fingers. I remember when my first year graduate school, part of our program is not only designing home with Habitat Humanity, we actually, as a whole class, we had to build the home from ground up, all the way to like foundation, basement, all the way to the roof. And it was such a invigorating experience. We come together, we raise the roof. I mean, we did it as a whole class. And you should see but the first week, all 10 finger were black and blue because most of us didn't properly learn how to hammer properly. And so all of our finger were black and blue. And after a couple weeks, we knew how to hammer. We knew how to frame the walls. We knew how to do things. And even just mixing concrete and getting the foundation ready, framing the foundations, we learned all that. And when I do design, I do think from that perspective. When I build a house, I think from that perspective. How do you use your hands to deliver something that actually have a meaning? It's not just based on computer linear vector lines. So I have high hopes, and I do see that coming around. And I do see that the industry, the younger generations begin to be interested in, even just IBS, International Builder Show this last February, we saw a lot of young people coming through, not just, high school, college but high school as students as well. So that to me is encouraging. There's a path to bring the next generation into our industry, but we have to work harder. We have to make more effort, bring them in, include them in, and show them our path, how we got here. And hopefully, they'll have less bruises along the way, but the goal is helping them to see what a fantastic industry this is and with the impact we have to individual families and also entire communities.
I just wanna stay there a bit longer on what you said about you're building this home together as a team, like everybody in
Oh,
your
yeah.
school. So the underlying question here is how did you feel when you were done and you could step back and see what you created?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, we were just like in our early 20s. Didn't know much besides we knew how to draw lines and back then I was doing fly through and presentation. That was wowing my professor at that time. And but to be in the field, shoulder to shoulder with my classmates, hammering through and fix or just building things. Even I remember, I think the first 2 after first week, we're just putting the frames together for the foundation, and, we didn't have a place to eat our lunch. We all brought our own lunch. We sat, trying to stay in the shade with summertime, and we all sat on the ground and ate our lunch and dirty hands and whatnot. But I realized, like, the experience really was profound to be with my classmates. We're shouting, we're laughing, we got music going on. It was a really fun experience. And there was some leftover wood, 2 by 4s and 2 by 6s, and I decided, "You know what? I'm gonna make a picnic table." And I did. I built a picnic table, so 10 of us at a session could actually sit down and no, actually, we made it all 4 so we can there's table and there are chairs, that's the bench all around, so we can all sit down and eat together for lunch, and that was pretty special, and that stayed there throughout the whole entire construction site, or the project, sorry.
And that's what we need to bring back into the you're in your 20s. I'm saying let's get that right in at high school. So you're coming in at what, 12, 13 years old? And I think in your case, you probably agree with this, there is something magical that happens when you've got a power tool and you fire it up for the first time. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it just opens up a realm of possibilities that you didn't even know existed.
Right. Alright, just wanna let you know, back then when we were building house, we weren't that our program wasn't that that advanced. We had mostly just bunch of hammers and we had to manually hammer away. But yes, I agree with you, and, let me pull the string back into what AI does. If you think about all those different power tools are essentially what AI can help us using our brain instead of physical training. That's what there is. There's nothing to be fearful. It's just another tool to help us to get better at doing some certain specific task, not a job. a task.
Okay, so you said fearful. That to me, there's a segue for another question. This is how Michael's brain works. So when I think fearful, the natural extension of AI is that we are all going to be governed by robots. You know, if you've seen the Terminator movie, that seems to be the dystopian future that we're heading towards, especially if you read science fiction. And if you listen to someone like Elon Musk, he said, working in the trades, you will always have a job because AI will never be able to get up on the roof, do shingles. And maybe there's fundamental things on a production line that AI can do, but the human element will always be there in construction. And in terms of employment, you will always have a job if you learn a trade.
Yes. No argument
Oh,
on this part.
well, that was too easy. I thought we're going to get into a fist
No,
fight.
I 100% agree because the home still
Okay.
needs to get built, and certain things are just not sustainable. Robots are great and they can do a lot of things, but if you think about most of these kind of robotic portion is for commercial construction, where they have a deeper pocket, deeper margin than residential. And residential, on the other hand, yes, there are these prefabricated homes and so forth, and they're good. I'm not discounting them, and they're good for certain sites, not for all. As a builder, we think about cost benefit analysis on every project, from land to completion, right? To have a robotic system, the investment is different than you able to deploy and able to get things done. Certain elements of construction can be achieved by robotic things, and a good portion of our industry still maintain that connection in building things, making evaluation, make sure things are done right. And there are these 3D printing, but they tend to be smaller because of structural integrity. So it's not going to be one size fits all. There's still in residential still going to be have vast of different solutions, just because what we want are going to be different. We're unique. Every homeowner is unique, and therefore our solution will be unique in many cases.
When we talk about it, I'm really hopeful about the younger generation that's grown up with technology in their hand.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say we're at that crossroad. I don't like that analogy. We're on the threshold, if you will, of exciting things coming into the industry. And when you look at the stupid cell phone, you know, like my first cell phone was back in what, like I don't know, the '80s, let's say. In a simple 30, look how far we've gone
Yeah, exactly.
in a relatively short period of time. We've gone from the big phone that was in a suitcase, right, and then you had it in your car mounted to the transmission, and then ultimately they became smaller and smaller.
Right.
And then what happens? We go back to, oh no, I want something bigger that I can't lose. But the point is, this technology has evolved in a relatively short period of time. When I see something like the 3D printed home, and here's a guy with an iPad, and he's taking this big extrusion arm out for a walk that's literally creating a home in lifetime.
Mhm,
I would have to believe that's going to enamor a whole generation of kids, again, that have grown up with the technology and now can see the potential that they
mhm.
can step into the trades and they can be doing this because it's like it's speaking their language. That gives
Absolutely.
me hope.
Yeah, that's it. Like I said, there's certain is perfect for certain use cases. It's not for all. And there's also cases for prefabricated walls, the offsite construction. That makes complete sense. If the labor shortage and they need framer, oh, labor shortage and framer, and they can actually have prefabricated walls be ready to ship and customize, great. And hopefully by doing this, we have less waste instead of all done on site. And so those to me make sense, and we will get better. And we will continue to evaluate calculate the cost benefit analysis. Ultimately, we'll get to a point where we'll be able to make homes that's much more affordable and faster to construct and more resilient based on the material we apply on our homes, from roof to siding to foundation. That to me is exciting. Even windows, like all windows are like offsite construction, right? There's no way we actually have an on-site construction on window assemblies. That is just another component of assembling a home, but that requires a builder have that knowledge and have the experience to deliver that result.
Let's do this, Grace. I would think with your technical background, you would appreciate the application and execution.
Yeah.
'Cause you can talk about the thing all day long, but how does it actually apply in my business and how do I use it? So let's pretend that
Mhm.
you are a small production builder and you're putting out, let's say 30 homes a year. That's a good healthy number, 30 a year. But you're feeling the constraint, you're feeling the roadblock. A good analogy that I like to use is the story about the lobster. I don't know if you've heard this before,
No.
but a lobster is confined within its shell,
Sure.
but internally it's growing
Mhm.
inside that shell. But ultimately, there'll become a point where the constriction, the pressure from that shell is preventing it from expanding. So it has to shed that
Right.
shell. And at that moment, it's completely vulnerable
Right.
until it develops the new shell, which is bigger. And then the process repeats itself. So there's a pain, there's a pressure involved for development. Now, when I look at AI and you're that builder at 30, now you want to scale because
Mhm.
you see the big boys are starting to come in and they're nibbling at your lunch. So scaling is not an option. It's a necessity if you're going to survive.
Right.
What would you do with the knowledge that you have? What are the applications and the executions? Let's say 4 or 5 different AI tools that you would implement into your business.
Okay. Great question. I really like that. I'll start even just before you start looking at tools, just like when as a builder, you don't go out and buy a bunch of tools, not knowing what you're going to use it for, right? Same thing. We need to know what problem we're trying to solve. As a builder, sit down with your team to figure out what frictions are you experiencing and break it down to even down to the minutiae of how long does it take to resolve this piece? How many man hours did it take? And what tools are we using today that's not meeting our expectations? And then going through every frictions along the way through their entire workflow on for everyone on the team. Once you have a list of all things that's not working or could be optimized, improved further, then start looking for tools. In fact, I'll use AI to do the tool research of here's what our problem. Literally, you don't have to figure it out on your own. Literally type in, here's my give a very specific, prompt. By means when I say prompt is merely a fancy way to say I have a question, but very detailed question. Identify, start with who am I, who I want you to be as AI, to understand the level of skill sets needs to be, and what problem am I experiencing, and what's the output you want to see, and start identify every single one before you start doing anything. And then start with one thing only. With the entire team, not just you, figure things out. Do it with your team, then you can grow it together and learn from each other. And then I'll trace back to my building project when I was in grad school, is you're doing this together. You'll experience the pain, but it's not going to be that painful. You may have 10 fingers all bruised and everything, but that joy of learning together and up leveling your capability and seeing everyone growing together is tremendous. So that's my advice to everyone. And of course, I'm going to do a quick plug. AI and Residential Construction book is about that. It's going through every step of friction that you may encounter. And I do give you a full list of, not full, a good portion list of different recommendation of AI tools that's available when I wrote it. So I'm sure there are tons of AI tools that are out there now. Definitely take advantage of AI tools. I also start using Perplexity as a great research tool. Enter that information, create that prompt, and ask for information to help you understand which tools and try out use their trial period to evaluate how easy it's to use for your team. And then upgrade to the paid version. They have more robust functionalities and logic, and they use more advanced AI frontier, AI models and so forth. So that's my recommendation. Start with one and use a free tool, then start advancing it to the next level. And once you can conquer one, then move on to the next one. Don't try to figure out all 5 or 10, how many tools may be. That's overwhelming and that's expensive. Not worth it. Start with one.
Let's give you the opportunity, since you stepped through that threshold, to shamelessly promote your book, Grace. And for the younger listeners, they may have to Google what a book is. I take it this is still on parchment or it's on some sort of cellular matter. There you go. Okay.
It's actual a book, AI and Residential Construction. And the intention is all about breaking down to every aspect of construction and focus on starting from just getting ready. The way I frame this is ready, set, go. It's same thing as how we build things, right? We mentally prepare and just understand the basic tools. and how to set things up, even set up security for every account that you enter and make sure that the privacy is set correctly. So your information is not shared with the ether or to be used as a training model. And then going through more specific skills down to like how to optimize your business. That's the level of spectrum that we talked about. And give you high level of, experience level. Is this easy to use? There's medium difficulty, or is it quite a bit difficult? That's primarily used for commercial, but it has a lot of value. So this is the book. If you can, buy it from builderbooks.com, and this is through NHB. So
We'll put that in the show notes so they can see. We'll put the direct link there. And the copy that you're holding up, is that the one that you autographed for me that I'm still waiting for? Is that the one, Grace?
yes, it's coming.
How's that for a subtle? Yeah, Michael's renowned for his subtlety. Speaking of subtlety, let's talk about this. How do I frame this? What are the companies that are producing AI? Let's say the apps that are now relevant or prevalent, sorry, in the construction space. Are they over promising? Are they hyping up the app, and where are they falling short? Let me rewind that. Let's make it simple. Are there promises being made that at this point in time can't be delivered when it comes to the apps that they're trying to peddle?
I see. So I'll say there are two camps. There's what we call a AI native. They are developing directly from the bottom up using AI tools and using AI thinking of architecture of how they set up their systems. Then there are, established companies that they've been offering tools for many years, and they're now inject AI into their system. So at some point, they're all gonna be AI companies because I don't think there's any existing companies that's been serving for years are not adapting AI. Hopefully, they will. And so at some point, they can converge. And it's all about how do we use information and the data they pull, just like often here, the garbage in, garbage out. If you have a good solid data, help you to and using AI, the training of the AI models, then the output is going to be pretty good. Again, I just want to caution, you should never use AI without human evaluation. Don't rely on 100% on the output. There's bound to be mistakes. As a business owner, it is your responsibility to make sure what you present information is accurate and it's aligned with what you deliver, what you believe is right thing. And so some company are still training, they'll get better. And the time of getting better is shorter. And the time to get the results out to your hands is shorter as well. So I'll have over close to 3 decades of technology experience. And I started thinking about my early days, I will have 100 engineers working for me, developing software. And now looking at it, I was able to develop software on my own for a matter of just for features and days and so forth to test it, to, pressure stress and make sure that this is done correctly and security setup is done correctly. It's not the same anymore. So things you have less people to develop software. I mean, AI is really focus on the software development. They're really good at it. So less people in shorter time. And for the companies, that's my experience. For many companies are probably experience the same thing. They will get better quicker and they'll get features out, better functionality out quicker for you with less people. So that's encouraging.
I think the scary part to that is how quickly AI is learning. And again, in a relatively short period of time since we pushed the button, it's only been, what would you say, a few years that this has
Mhm.
become a pertinent conversation point. And in that matter of time, the amount of knowledge, it's doubling or tripling, like at a fraction of the time that it used to take. So,
Yeah.
it's like tsunami coming. And the thing that fascinates me, I use AI for prep research
Mhm.
and doing something as fundamental as creating little thumbnails.
Right.
And what I find is, well, I'm talking to the machine.
Yes.
Like, I refuse to do that. I refuse to hook up the microphone to the computer. I'm still keying, and even
Okay.
though I hate keying, I still love writing with a pen because I think there's a tactile connection between hand and brain that we've
Yes.
lost.
There is.
And
Absolutely.
and the studies are there to show that our kids are dumber as a result of it, but that's a topic for another time. I'll be doing something and we're in sync. I'll put in a prompt and it'll say, "Oh, great. What if we did this?" And we're actually debating back and forth. And then
Mhm.
suddenly, out of nowhere, we're at that point where it's almost perfect.
Mhm.
And then the thing will shit the bed and come up with something completely delusional that had nothing to do what we spent the past hour building towards.
Right. So there's the part of memory. So AI tools, they're good at a certain point, right? If you continue to use the same session, the memory is limited. They're not that great yet. So it's almost speaking with someone may have losing memory and you feel like you're pouring your heart out with everything that you want to contain. Unfortunately, the memory capability is not that great. And reality is what we're using probably going to be the worst experience we'll ever use in the future. So even trace back when ChatGPT came out during pandemic was okay, bunch of issues, but compared to ChatGPT today, it's leaps and bounds of where what used to be. So technology will continue to evolve. It will get better and get better quickly. And so the way to solve this problem is extrapolate the content or the information you had before, create a new session. That means create new memory or for it to start the session, then continue the conversation. As soon as you see there's a little wonkiness associated to that, create a new session, then start out front fresh. Unfortunately, that's the limitation of most of the AI tools currently do have. Maybe someday they'll get better, but I do see that the length of time when I engage with AI sessions is longer and better than before. Even I think just a couple days ago, Claude just came out, the new latest, greatest, and I play around immediately. It is pretty robust. And I do use microphone to talk, especially when I'm driving. I use a dispatch for the Claude. I literally have a conversation going back and forth, asked to critique my assumptions, and then have it perform to do the for the agent to perform tasks on my computer back in my office. By the time I get back, it's done. And so
Yeah.
there's that capability. We need to learn how to leverage it. It's not going to be perfect the first try. You just continue to practice, just like you mentioned in front of the early session about Rush, the band, so disciplined. AI is another way. How we engage with them is discipline, practice, play around. We'll make some mistakes, then we understand what's not capable doing or what the limitations are, but focus on things that they're capable doing, like research, phenomenal research. They're able to find things, refine things, validate things, double checking. That's what they're good at, is computing in a very fast manner.
It's mind-boggling because giving it a bit of context, I'm looking at buying a Gibson acoustic guitar,
Ah.
1975. And it's called a parlor style guitar. So it's a smaller one that you just kinda, fool around with, and anyway, back in the day, in that time period, they used a certain type of lacquer, and it was a
Yes.
cellulose deliver type of lacquer. And what happens is, when you put that on a guitar, it's like, a toffee apple. You know the candy apples? 'Kay.
Yes.
So inside the candy, the apple's contracting and expanding, but the candy outside doesn't. It's rigid. So what happens over time, as the guitar expands and contracts, the lacquer will start to crack,
Uh-huh.
and it actually creates this pattern. It looks like a spider web throughout the entire
Yeah.
guitar. It doesn't degrade the performance of the guitar or the integrity, but it's just basically these minute little cracks in the lacquer. And I can talk to this like a pro, because the other day I put that into chat because I wanted to know about this guitar and what this meant. And and literally the time it took me to hit enter and then look back up at the screen, it's spitting out the answer and everything that I should look for. And that just blows my 6-year-old little mind. The question I've got for you, Grace, is from a builder's perspective right now, what is the impact, let's say 5 years down the road, if they're not willing to engage and at least do the research to find out what it is that they need?
It would take them longer time to get things done, and time equals money. It will cost them more to build. That's it. And so in the in the landscape, the competitive landscape, when time is money and your competitor is able to deliver things faster and better, the challenge for people who are not leveraging AI, unfortunately, would be taken over by those competitors. And I do have to caution, you know, AI is a tool. I want to emphasize is AI is a tool. Maybe a second brain for you, maybe a researcher agent for you, but you're using them as a tool to help you to improve your operation. You're still steering the the car. You're still defining the direction, where to go, how fast. It's up to you. But when you're not leveraging AI tools, you're working on a slower pace than people who are using the AI tools. That's it.
I'm going to say bad analogy. We're not driving the cars anymore, Grace. We're going towards driverless cars. So the
Right.
AI is,
Well,
yeah,
it literally AI is controlling taking you to places, but
yeah.
you have to tell AI where to go. And then
So
where the AI picked you up, that's where the starting point, and you have to input where you want to go and what other tasks you want to perform. But you have to be there, even though physically not in the driver's seat, but you are still in control.
let's add a positive spin to this. As you come out from the warm embrace of the AI waters, I'm trying to think of a metaphor. I'm struggling at this one. So, from the technology side, and now you're standing on the mountainside looking at the building industry, what's your prediction for what's going to happen in the future? Let's say relative short time period. I hate using 5 years, but let's say 5 years from now, what is Grace's prediction about the good, the bad, the ugly of
Mm.
technology and construction?
I'll start with the bad, then I'll move over to good. The bad is people rely on technology to do everything for them. The output is going to be generic, and the results is not as meaningful and as creative. They may be getting more efficient, but doesn't you lose the flair. The good is we learn to be smart of using the right tools to perform the right tasks. For example, I wouldn't use nail gun to try to screw to replace a screwdriver. No, right? So if you do, you're gonna you're gonna ruin everything. And so be smart about using what tools to perform what task. And when we do so, it will accelerate the output by means of the quality and the quantity by speed. And so that part I'm encouraging. And when we improve our productivity level, we also could reduce the costs of the output. And that becomes more affordable for many families. And we have more affordable families, they come together, creating better communities. That's the good. And when we can create better communities that's strong enough, resilient enough to deal with any kind of natural disasters. Out here in California, we have earthquake and fire. And out in the East Coast, we have tornadoes and hurricanes and others, and hailstorms and so forth. If we as a building community can learn what we need to do to create better output, better homes for our clients, and building better communities for them, that's what matters. And the other piece I want to share with you is this is not often talked about, but it's actually a pretty important things that we need to be mindful about. There was a study done in UK that indicated that the trades or residential construction tend to be indexed higher on neurodivergent. Neurodivergent means, ADHDs, dyslexia, and so forth. And which makes sense because our school system is not designed for people with neurodivergent. And so I use AI to teach me or to help me to learn when I was taking multiple state licenses, and I was taking NASLA, which is covers 16 different states, commercial license, general contractor license. And there are a lot of things I didn't know. Even though I study architecture, I'm constantly learning. And when I was studying, it was more at nighttime and weekends where I couldn't ask anybody for help. So I turned to AI to explain things, concept I didn't understand. So I learned. And this is my understanding is one of the most challenging tests in our industry. I studied for about a month or so, and I passed first time. It's a 6-hour test. It's not because I'm smarter. It's because I use the right tool to help me to learn faster. That's it. So I'll share that experience with you, but also tie into neurodivergence because after I finished the test, I also took the Florida business license, which is really hard. another 6.5 an hour test just on the business side. So kudos to all people who are licensed contractors. I have enormous respect for everyone who gone through the process. But what was interesting for me after taking so many state licenses, I realized how hard it was for me. I was thought it was aging or whatnot. I'm out of school for many years, but I also was wondering if I was on this some level of spectrum. And I took the test. I went to a doctor and had gone through this test, and turned out I was severely dyslexic. I didn't know that all through my life. I just found out a couple years ago. And what I find that because our trades are heavily indexed on neurodivergent, is actually a very positive thing, leveraging AI to help us understand information. For example, inputting all your historical data for an estimate to actual, to do the full analysis, which project actually performs well for you, and what specific line items actually causing you losing money. That's what AI can do for us. Instead of us trying to look at a spreadsheets of numbers and figure things out, it's really tough for someone like me. I didn't realize it. I just took longer to get things done. But now I could get all that analysis done in a matter of minutes instead of days. So hopefully, with my personal experience, will help other readers to be more comfortable thinking, how do we use AI, leverage AI to help us do things better? Things that instead focus on working harder and longer, things that we may not enjoy doing, leverage AI to help you to get that done. So you can get the insight to make better decisions. It's not about removing or not doing anything, but you still need to be involved in making the final call.
Well, even this concept of understanding yourself and what you're good at. So you're probably familiar with the DISC
Yes.
score.
Hmm.
So it tells you that, you're a dominant person, or you're a timid little mouse, whatever,
Right.
animal thing you want, whatever your spirit animal is, Grace, I don't know. But I did something called the Colby Index,
Okay.
if you're familiar with that one.
Not yet.
And so what it does, it measures, it's not that you're weak, but here's the things that light you up, that you're
Mm,
exceptional at. And it's not to say you're not, excuse me, good at this other thing, but you light up at this thing.
yes.
So where you should be focusing on are these things that you're super, super good at. And these other ones that are sort of mundane that you're not really good at,
Hmm.
that's what you hand off to other people,
Right.
which kind of now brings us back to AI. So I can be focused on what I need to be doing best.
Hmm.
AI can be filling in the difference. So let's just put a pin in there because I see the runway ahead. You've got to get ready for your concert. I've got a series of questions I want to ask you, and I call them rapid fire.
Let's do
And
it.
this can be hard for you because you don't think, Grace. There's no thinking here. I'm
Okay.
going to ask you a sentence and you fill it in at the end. So
That's good.
I know it's going to be hard. Tone it down. Just response versus thinking. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Builders who will benefit most from AI are
Research.
AI will never replace.
Human.
The biggest waste of time in most building companies today is
Research.
5 years from now, every successful builder will be using AI to
Improve their operation.
builders get themselves in trouble when they believe.
AI can do everything for them.
Okay, so let's take the stress off. These next ones will be easy peasy. That
Okay.
rare hour of the day that I enjoy the most is
First thing in the morning, 5 o'clock in the
okay.
morning,
A place that helps me get clarity and relax is
I go for a walk.
okay. A book or a quote or a lesson that stayed with me longer than expected is
I'm forgetting her name, but she's a poet. People will forget what you do. People will forget what you said. People will never forget how you make them feel.
that's a keeper, that one. I thought you were gonna sing a lyric from a Rush tune, but okay.
No, I'm not that talented.
That one's good too. All right. When somebody gets to know me, they
Maya
oh,
Angelou, so that was her name. Maya Angelou.
okay, alrighty. You probably just looked that up on AI. Okay, I get it.
Oh, no, no,
Uh,
it's just coming back to my head.
okay. When people get to know me, they're really surprised that I
Yeah, I'm introvert.
wow, okay. And last one, what a thoughtful gift. As I unwrapped the package to my surprise, I found a
A book.
send Grace a copy of her own book. Okay, done.
Just kidding. For you. I was thinking more of what can I offer you at the end of this
Oh man.
conversation. Sorry.
Grace, anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to address?
No, thank you so much. I really hope everyone will start playing around. Use a Friday afternoon when things are a little bit calmer. Play around. Be adventurous. Think about when you were a kid and going out the playground. And I'll do one last plug, a shameless plug, is the software I developed is called HomeRES.ai, is identify all the incentives within the property and also identify, help you to figure out how to build better and with a clear pathway of getting better conversation with your homeowners.
I'm going to remind the listeners that the show notes that accompany this interview will have all the links that we talked about today. And I think I'm going to have to pen this one, Grace, with to be continued, because I think there's so much. We only scratched the surface, but I
Yeah,
think there's so much more that we can be doing. So I'll just say to be continued. And I look forward to when our paths cross again.
that sounds great. Thank you so much, Michael, and
Yeah.
thank you for all the listeners. And I do hope and encourage you to do so. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect and hear about your experience and anything I can do to support you guys during this journey. Please let me know.
Oh,
Thank
one last thing. Don't forget to buy your Zippo lighter for the Rush concert
Yes,
tonight.
I will keep that in mind. I will definitely do so tonight.
Thanks for listening to Builder Straight Talk. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. Until next time, keep building smarter. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.